The great contest of the galaxy came once every 5 years. It was held in the shining arena on the world called Velisar, a place where champions from many planets gathered to prove their skill, strength, and courage. The contest was not just a game. It was a test to find who could survive challenges of mind, body, and spirit. Every winner was given a prize from the treasures of the galaxy. The prizes were many rare crystals that glowed like frozen stars, ancient weapons that once belonged to heroes, powerful machines from forgotten ages, and even captives from faraway worlds taken during battles between empires. Among the many who came to fight was a human named Ryan. He was not from a noble house, and he was not famous like other warriors. He came from a small farming colony on the edge of human space. But Ryan was clever, fast, and stubborn, and he had trained himself for years in both survival and combat. When the contest began, he faced beasts from the frozen moons, fought in the weightless arena where every move was slow and strange, solved riddles that confused even the wisest alien minds, and crossed the blazing bridge where molten rivers flowed below. One by one, the other champions failed. Some were stronger than Ryan. Some were faster. Some had better weapons, but none had his patience and his will. After many days of trials, the final challenge arrived. Ryan stood against a huge reptilian fighter from the world of Dravos, a place known for war. The alien was tall as 2 men, with arms like coiled steel. The crowd expected the human to fall quickly, but Ryan was too quick to catch. He dodged every strike, waited for the right moment, and then struck a single blow to the alien's leg, making it stumble. Before the reptilian could recover, Ryan used the arena's own traps against it, forcing the giant into a pit of soft energy nets where it could not move. The crowd roared with surprise, and the announcer's voice rang through the air, naming Ryan the champion of the contest. Now it was time to choose his prize. The prizes were shown on tall glass stands, and among them stood living captives from many worlds. Most warriors would choose a powerful weapon or an armored ship for more battles ahead. Ryan walked slowly past the stands, looking at each prize with calm eyes. The crowd whispered, wondering what he would choose. Then he stopped in front of a small figure standing quietly at the end of the line. It was a young alien girl with silver hair that caught the light and skin as pale as moonlight. She wore a simple white robe, and her hands were bound loosely with soft cords. Her eyes were large and bright green, but full of fear. She was Lyri, princess of the gentle race called Avarin, known for music art and healing. The Avarin were no warriors. They had no armies, no weapons, only beauty and kindness. She had been taken from her world during a raid by a cruel warlord and brought here as a prize. To the crowd, she was weak and useless. To Ryan, she was something else. The master of prizes smiled, thinking the human would pass her by, but Ryan said without hesitation, "I choose her." The crowd gasped. The master of prizes reminded him that she had no skill in battle, no strength, no value in war. Ryan only replied, "Then I will give her strength." And with that, he stepped forward, removed the soft cords from her wrists, and took her hand. Lyri looked at him in confusion, not understanding why this stranger had chosen her. Ryan said quietly, "You do not belong here. Come with me and you will be free." Many in the crowd laughed, saying the human had thrown away his victory. Others shook their heads, thinking it was foolishness. But Ryan led Lyri out of the arena toward his modest starship, the Dawnfire. He did not care for their words. In his mind, he had not just chosen a weak princess. He had chosen a future that no one else could see. The Dawnfire was not a large or beautiful ship, but it was home to Ryan. Its silver hull was marked with scratches from many journeys through dangerous places. Inside, it was simple, with narrow halls, small cabins, and a control room filled with blinking lights and worn metal chairs. When Leary stepped inside, she held her robe close and looked around as if she had never seen such a place before. Her people. The Averin lived on green lands under soft skies. They had no machines like this, no ships to travel the stars. To her, the humming of the engines felt strange, and the cold air of the metal walls felt even stranger. Ryan guided her to a seat in the control room and set the ship on course for open space. Through the large window, the stars stretched, forever. And Leary stared at them in silence. For a long time, neither spoke. Then she finally asked, "Why did you choose me?" Her voice was soft, almost like the sound of a breeze. Ryan answered, "Because you do not belong in a cage. And because I think you can be more than you believe." Leary shook her head, saying, "I am not strong. I cannot fight. I am not like the warriors you faced." Ryan only smiled. "You will learn. Strength is not always about swinging a blade." In the days that followed, Leary tried to help. Around the ship, she learned how to prepare food in the small galley and how to keep the air filters clean. Ryan also began to teach her simple things about travel in space, how to read a basic map of the stars, how to check fuel levels, how to use the small communicator. At first, she was shy and hesitant, afraid of pressing the wrong button or breaking something. But Ryan never raised his voice. He encouraged her to keep trying. When they stopped at a small trading station, Leary stayed close. To him, the place was noisy and full of strange beings of all shapes and colors. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with pity, and a few with mocking smiles. She felt their eyes like a heavy weight on her back. Ryan noticed and kept her close, making sure no one came too near. He traded a few supplies for food and tools. Then they left quickly. As they traveled between stations, Ryan began to see more of who Leary was. She was quiet, but her mind was sharp. When he showed her the storage room, she organized it better than he ever had. When a part of the engine made a strange noise, she noticed it before he did. Her race might not fight wars, but they understood details and cared for what they touched. One evening, while they ate together, Leary asked about his life. He told her about the small farming colony where he grew up, how he learned to hunt in the wild hills, and how he first dreamed of traveling beyond his world. She listened closely, then shared her own story. Her world was peaceful with rivers and silver trees that glowed at night. She was the youngest daughter of her family and was taught the songs and healing arts of her people. She had never left her home until the warlord's men came taking her away. Her voice trembled when she spoke of it, but she did not cry. Days later, they reached another trade station, one larger and busier than before. Ryan wanted to buy new navigation charts and a better shield battery for the ship. While he searched for a trader, Leary waited near the dock, looking at the colorful stalls. She noticed a group of rough-looking aliens pointing at Ryan's ship and whispering to each other. Something about them made her uneasy. When Ryan returned, she told him what she saw. He frowned, saying pirates sometimes hide in places like this. "We will leave soon, but be ready for trouble." That night, as they prepared to depart, alarms echoed through the dock. Pirates had attacked the station hoping to steal ships and cargo. Ryan told Leary to stay inside the dawn fire while he went to guard the entrance. She sat inside, trembling as the sounds of shouting and weapons filled the air. Then through the window, she saw a young child pinned under a fallen crate near the fire suppression system. Without thinking, she ran outside, her small feet slipping on the metal floor. She pulled at the crate, but it was too heavy. Using a nearby lever, she released the lock that held the crate in place and rolled it away, freeing the child. The child ran to safety, but before Leary could return to the ship, a tall figure blocked her path. It was the pirate leader with armor made of black plates and a cruel smile. "So you are the human's prize," he said in a mocking tone. Before she could answer, he grabbed her arm and dragged her toward his own vessel. inside the Dawnfire. Rian saw this through the ship cameras. He moved fast through the smoke and chaos of the dock, striking down 2 pirates with quick blows. When he reached the leader, he threw a flash charge at his feet, blinding him for a moment. Ryan pulled Leary free and they ran back to the ship. Once inside, he launched the Dawnfire into space, leaving the station behind. In the safety of the control room, Leary sat breathing hard. Her hands still shaking. Ryan looked at her with a mix of worry and pride. "You saved that child even when danger was all around," he said. She lowered her eyes. "I could not just stand there and do nothing." He nodded. "That is the heart of a protector, Leary. But if you want to protect others, you must learn to protect yourself too." For the first time, she met his eyes with determination. "I want to learn." The Dawnfire drifted in the quiet of space, far from the busy trade lanes. Leary sat at the small table in the galley, while Ryan spread a set of old training pads and wooden sticks on the floor. He told her that strength begins with knowing how to stand and how to move. It does not matter if your body is small or if you have never fought before. What matters is learning how to use what you have. At first, Leary felt clumsy. She stepped forward when she should have stepped back and turned the wrong way when she tried to dodge. Her hands ached from gripping the stick too tightly, and her legs grew sore from holding a steady stance. But Ryan was patient. He showed her again and again how to keep her balance, how to watch the eyes of her opponent, and how to strike without wasting energy. Every day, they trained a little more, and she began to feel the movements becoming part of her body. 1 week later, they stopped at a distant trade station far from the core worlds. This place was smaller than the last stations they had visited, but its markets were crowded with merchants and travelers from many planets. Ryan wanted to pick up supplies and sell a few small goods they had collected along the way. He told Leary to stay near him, but also encouraged her to look around so she could learn how different worlds worked. The station was full of sounds and colors. Vendors called out to passing customers in many languages. Holograms showed bright images of goods for sale. Small creatures scurried between stalls carrying baskets of food or tools. Leary felt a little braver than before, walking slowly beside Ryan and even asking a merchant about a strange blue fruit. For a moment, she forgot about the dangers that might still be close. But danger was not far away. Unseen in the crowd, a group of pirates from the outer rings had entered the station. They moved quietly between the shoppers, watching for a ship worth taking and a crew they could overpower. Their eyes soon fell on the Dawnfire docked near the edge of the landing bay. They also noticed Leary, the silver-haired alien girl walking beside the human who had defeated many in the great contest. The pirates had heard of Ryan, and they thought taking the girl would bring a high price or lure him into a trap. While Ryan was busy speaking with a trader about shield repairs, Leary wandered a few steps away to look at a set of small wind chimes made from crystal. She felt the air change around her as if someone was watching closely. When she turned, she saw a tall figure in dark armor standing just beyond the stall. Before she could step back, 2 more figures appeared, blocking the narrow path between the stalls. One of them spoke quietly, "Come with us, and you will not be hurt." Leary's heart raced. She remembered Ryan's words about keeping her stance and watching her opponent. She held her ground, but did not know if she could win against them. A sudden noise broke through the crowd. The station's alarm sounded loud and sharp. Over the intercom, a voice shouted, "Warning, pirate attack in the docking bay. All travelers return to your ships." The pirates around Leary moved quickly. One grabbed her arm and tried to pull her away. She twisted her body and stepped to the side, just like Ryan had taught her, managing to slip from his grip. But another pirate caught her and dragged her toward the bay. Ryan saw her from across the market, and his chest tightened with fear. He pushed through the crowd, using his elbows to clear a path. When he reached the edge of the bay, He saw the pirate leader forcing Leary toward a small black ship with sharp wings. Ryan knew he had to move fast before they escaped. He reached into his belt for a small smoke, charge, and tossed it near the pirates. A thick cloud filled the air, hiding their shapes. In the confusion, Ryan rushed forward, grabbed Leary's wrist, and pulled her back toward the market. The leader roared in anger and swung a heavy weapon toward. Ryan ducked under the swing and pushed the pirate hard into a cargo crate. The pirate stumbled and fell, giving Ryan the opening he needed. He kept Leary close as they ran toward the dawn fire. Other pirates fired energy shots that hissed through the air, but Ryan zigzagged between stacks of cargo, using them as cover. When they reached the ship, Ryan shouted for Leary to get inside and strap in. She did as he said while he raced to the pilot's seat. The engines roared to life and the dawn fire lifted from the dock. Pirate ships tried to follow, but Ryan spun the ship sharply through the narrow station gates and into open space. Once clear, he pushed the engines to full speed until the pirate signals faded from the radar only when the danger passed did Leary speak. Her voice was shaking but steady enough to say, "I tried to move like you showed me, but they were too strong." Ryan glanced at her and said, "You bought yourself the seconds I needed to reach you. That can mean the difference between life and death." Leary looked at him with surprise. "You mean I did something right?" He nodded. "You did more than that. You kept calm under threat. That is your first step toward being ready." They sat in silence for a moment, the hum of the engines the only sound Leary thought about how close she had come to being taken again. The fear was still inside her, but so was a small spark of pride. She knew she was still weak, but she also knew she had begun to change. Looking out at the stars, she whispered, "To herself, I will be ready next time." Ryan heard her and smiled quietly. He knew the next step was to give her real training and real challenges. The galaxy was dangerous, and soon she would have to face it. Not as a rescued princess, but as someone who could stand on her own. The Dawnfire moved through the dark sea of space, carrying Ryan and Leary toward the icy moon of Kalor. This was the first stop in a long journey Ryan had planned for her. He told her that every place they would visit would teach her a new skill. Some skills would make her faster, some would make her stronger, and others would make her smarter in battle. Each teacher they met would be different, and each world would have its own challenges. When the Dawnfire landed on Kalor, the cold hit Leary like a wall. The air was sharp and thin, the ground covered in endless snow. Mountains rose like silver spears under a pale sun. Waiting for them was a short figure wrapped in furs, with eyes as sharp as glass. This was Malin, once a feared assassin. Now a quiet hermit who lived alone in the ice. Malin greeted Ryan with a nod, then looked at Leary for a long time before speaking. She will learn speed or she will freeze. The days on Kalor were harsh. Malin made Leary run across frozen fields until her lungs burned. She taught her to move without leaving deep tracks in the snow and to blend her body into shadows and snowdrifts. They practiced throwing small blades at moving targets while the wind tried to knock them from the air. At first, Leary's throws missed again and again. Her fingers felt numb and her legs ached, but she kept going. By the end of 2 weeks, she could cross the snow without sound and strike a target before it could vanish from sight. From Kalor, they traveled to the volcanic world of Brath. Here the air shimmered with heat and the ground cracked with rivers of glowing lava. Leary could feel the heat through her boots, and the sky burned orange above. Their teacher here was Torvak, a broad-shouldered warrior. With arms marked by old scars, Torvak placed a long metal blade in Leary's hands and said, "The sword is not your friend. It will not forgive mistakes. Treat it with respect, or it will fail you." The training was heavy and painful. Torvak taught her how to hold the blade without tiring her arms. He showed her how to block, how to strike, and how to recover if she stumbled. Sparks flew when their blades met, and the sound of metal echoed through the hot air. Leary's hands blistered, and her arms shook each night, but she refused to quit. Weeks passed until she could fight Torvak for many minutes without dropping her guard. The big warrior gave her a rare smile and said, "You are still small, but your heart is not." Their next stop was the floating sky cities of Tarun. Here towers hung in the clouds, connected by glass bridges and silver platforms. The wind sang between the towers and ships flew like birds below. Waiting for them was Commander Sarah, an old friend of Ryan and a master of tactics. And planning Sarah's training was not about strength or speed. She made Leary study maps of battlefields, both real and imagined. She asked her to move small pieces on a table to show where troops might advance or retreat. At first, Leary was lost, but slowly she began to understand how each decision could win or lose a battle. Sarah also taught her how to command a small team, giving clear orders even when under pressure. Between each world they traveled, Ryan tested her. Sometimes he hid an object on the ship and made her find it using stealth. Sometimes he attacked her suddenly with a wooden stick to see how fast she reacted. Sometimes he asked her to guide the ship through asteroid fields while he pretended to be injured. Leary began to notice that her mind and body were changing. Her steps were lighter, her strikes more accurate, and her thoughts quicker in danger. Months passed in this way. The dawn fire carried them through storms of ice around suns that burned gold and passed. Ruins of old wars where no one lived anymore. Everywhere they went, Leary found a piece of herself she had never known was there. On Kalor she had found speed. On Brath she had found strength. On Tarun she had found the mind of a leader. She still made mistakes, but each mistake became a lesson she would not forget. One night, as they rested on the dawn fire after leaving Tarun, Leary sat looking at the stars. Ryan joined her and asked what she was thinking. She said, "I never thought I could live. This way I thought my life would always be soft and safe. Now I feel different, like I am made for something greater." Ryan smiled. "You always were. You just needed to see it for yourself." But even as they spoke, a shadow was moving across the galaxy. In the far reaches of space, a fleet of dark ships was gathering. This was the Void Legion, a force that crushed worlds and left only silence behind. They had already taken small colonies, and now they looked toward new prey. One of the names whispered. In their plans was the world of the Averin Leary's home was in danger, and she did not yet know it. For now she only knew that her journey had changed her, and that the lessons were far from over. Soon she would face a test greater than any training. She had known, and when that day came, she would need every skill she had learned across the stars. The Dawnfire floated in quiet space after many months of travel and training. Leary sat in the control chair looking at the star map, while Ryan checked the engine systems. It had been some time since their last stop on Tarun, and both of them were thinking about what to do next. Leary felt stronger than she ever had before, yet she also knew that strength was useless if there was no purpose for it. She thought often about her home world of Averin, with its silver trees and calm rivers. She wondered if her family still believed she was alive. While she studied the map, a signal light began to blink on the control panel. It was a long-range broadcast, repeating again and again. Ryan turned up the volume, and they both listened. The voice was urgent and heavy with fear. "This is a call to all friendly ships. The Void Legion has been sighted near the Varel system. They have taken 2 colonies and destroyed a 3rd. Any ship able to help should make haste before the next attack." The words made Ryan's expression tighten. He told Leary that the Void Legion was not just a band of raiders. They were an organized fleet with endless soldiers and powerful war machines. They moved like a shadow across the stars, crushing every world in their path. No one knew exactly where they had come from, but every commander who faced them feared their strength. Leary leaned closer to the map, and her heart sank. The Varel system was only a short jump from Avarin. If the Legion moved quickly, her home would be there. Next target. She turned to Ryan and said, "We have to go. We have to warn them." Ryan looked at her with calm eyes and asked, "If we go, it will not just be to warn them, it will be to fight. Are you ready for that?" Leary's hands tightened on the edge of the chair. "I am ready," she said. "If I do nothing, my people will be lost." Ryan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, then, we will gather allies and make a stand." Their first stop was Kalor, where the cold winds still howled across the white plains. Leary found Malin and explained what was coming. The old assassin listened without speaking, then finally said, "The Avarin gave me shelter long ago. I will repay that debt. I will come." From Kalor, they went to Brath, where Torvak was still training, warriors under the red sky. When Leary told him of the Legion, he laughed once, not out of joy but out of challenge. "If the Legion thinks they can take your world, they will have to go through me and my blade," he said. On Tarun, Commander Sarah was already studying reports of the Legion fleet. She agreed to bring a small group of pilots to aid them. With each ally gained, Leary felt her courage grow. But she also knew they were still few compared to the vast army they would face. Rayan told her that a small force could still win if it struck at the right time in the right place. This was the lesson she had learned on Tarun, and now she would put it to use. They set course for Avarin. When the dawn fire broke through the soft clouds of her world, Leary felt her breath catch. The silver trees still shone in the sunlight, and the rivers still flowed clear and gentle. But above the land, dark shapes moved in the sky. Legion scout ships were already circling like birds of prey. They landed in the capital city, where the Avarin Council met in a tall hall of crystal walls. At first, the council could not believe the danger was so near. The Avarin had never fought wars. They had no standing army, only small guards for the cities. But when Leary showed them the Legion signals on the ship's scanner, the truth became clear. Some council members wanted to flee to the far side of the world and hide. Leary stood in the center of the hall and spoke with the voice of a leader. "If you hide, they will find you. If you run, they will hunt you. If you stand together, you may live. I will fight, and I will lead those who will fight with me." Her words carried through the hall, and slowly heads began to nod. Volunteers stepped forward, young and old, some with farming tools, others with old hunting spears. Leary told them they would learn quickly. She divided them into small groups, teaching them how to move quietly, how to strike from cover, and how to follow signals from their leaders. Rian worked. With the ship crews preparing the few Avarin skycraft for quick strikes and retreats, Malin trained a team of scouts in the snow shadow ways. Torvak drilled the front-line fighters, showing them how to meet the enemy. Without fear, Sarah worked with the pilots, plotting every possible move the Legion might make. For 2 weeks, they trained from dawn until night. The city's open squares became drill grounds, and the forests became practice fields. Leary moved among the fighters every day, correcting their stance, showing them how to hold their weapons and giving them courage with her presence. When she held her blade now, it was not the hand of a fragile princess, but the hand of a warrior who had crossed the stars and learned from the best. On the 15th day, a message came from a hidden scout ship. The Legion fleet had entered Avarin space. Dark clouds of metal were moving toward the planet, their engines burning like red stars. There was no more time for training. The battle for her world was about to begin. Leary stood on the balcony of the council hall, looking out over the silver forests. She thought of the days when she was a quiet girl who knew nothing of war. That girl was gone. Now she was the protector of her people. And When the first Legion ships cut through the clouds, she was ready to face them. The sky above Avarin grew dark as the ships of the Void Legion approached like a storm on the horizon. Lyri stood at the command center with Ryan and the allies she had gathered. Her heart beat fast, but her eyes were calm and steady. She had trained for this moment for many months, and now everything depended on her courage and skill. The first wave of Legion fighters swooped down like hawks. They fired energy blasts that tore through the outer defenses of the city. Lyri shouted orders to the ground forces and the pilots flying overhead. Her voice was clear and strong as she guided the defenders to hold the key positions. On the ground, the newly trained Avarin fighters moved quickly. They hid behind silver trees and large rocks, using the lessons Lyri had taught them. Lyri led a group herself, using stealth to get behind enemy lines. She moved like a shadow, blending into the forest and striking before the Legion soldiers knew she was there. Her small size and quick steps made her hard to catch. She took down enemy soldiers with her blade and led others to safety when they were wounded above the battle. Ryan commanded the Dawnfire and the fleet allies had brought. They fought against the larger Legion ships using speed, and smart attacks. Ryan's ship dodged enemy fire and targeted the weak points in the Legion's armor. The fleet worked like a single machine with pilots trusting each other's moves. Every victory gave the defenders hope. The battle raged for hours. Explosions lit the sky, and the ground shook under the weight of giant machines. Lyri found herself face to face with the Legion's champion, a huge cyborg with metal arms and glowing red eyes. He towered over her, but she did not step back. The two circled each other. The cyborg struck first with a heavy metal fist. Lyri dodged and quickly struck with her blade, aiming for the joints in his armor. The cyborg's metal skin was strong, but her strikes were fast and precise. She kept moving, not giving him a chance to hit her. The fight was long and hard. Lyri felt her muscles burn, but she did not give up. She remembered all her training, the lessons from Malin Torvak and Sarah. She looked for a weak spot and found it near the cyborgs. Leg with a powerful strike, she broke the armor and made the machine stumble. Seeing the chance, she jumped and landed a final blow to the cyborg's head. He fell to the ground, and the other Legion forces faltered. The defenders used this moment to push the Legion back. Ryan and his pilots attacked the big ships, forcing them to retreat. The skies cleared as the Legion fleet disappeared beyond the edge of the system. The battle was won, but the cost was heavy. Many brave fighters lay wounded. Or tired, Lyri stood among her people, feeling both pain and pride. She looked at the silver trees shining in the fading light and knew the fight was not over. The Legion would return, but now they had seen the strength of a warrior who once was called. Weak Lyri had become a symbol of hope and courage for all who wished to live free. Ryan came beside her and smiled quietly. "You kept your promise," he said softly. "You became the strength I believed you could be." Lyri looked out at the stars, knowing many journeys were still ahead. Her path was no longer that of a quiet princess. It was the path of a warrior protector ready to face whatever the galaxy would bring next. The galaxy was changing fast after the battle for Avarin. News of Lyri's victory spread quickly through the stars. Many who had once doubted the weak alien princess now spoke her name with respect and hope. She was no longer just a prize won in a contest. She was a warrior leader and a symbol of strength. Ryan and Lyri traveled together in the Dawnfire. Their bond had grown from protector and burden to partners and equals. They visited worlds that had suffered under the shadow of the void. Legion Lyri shared her story and helped others learn to stand and fight for their homes. Her gentle heart still held kindness, but her hands were strong and ready. In the busy spaceports, she was welcomed with smiles and cheers. The silver hair and bright green eyes that once made her seem fragile now shone with confidence. Many young aliens and humans looked up to her as a hero. She taught them that true strength comes not only from muscle or weapons, but from courage and the will to protect. Others. One day on a quiet planet far from the battlefields, Leary sat with Ryan watching the stars. She told him she still remembered the day he chose her in the contest, when everyone thought she was weak. Ryan smiled and said, "I never saw weakness. In you, only the chance for greatness." Leary laughed softly, saying, "Maybe you were right all along. Their journey was not over. The Void Legion was still out there waiting in the darkness. But with every new friend and every new lesson, the galaxy grew, a little safer." Leary knew she was ready for the challenges ahead, because she was no longer the princess who needed saving. She was the strongest warrior in the galaxy, A's. The stars sparkled above them. Leary made a promise to herself. She would protect the innocent. She would fight for peace, and she would never forget the day a human saw her not as weak, but as a future. The galaxy had chosen its new hero, and the story of Leary and Ryan was just beginning.